What would happen if oxpeckers disappeared from the African savanna? At sunrise, an African buffalo walks into the grass. Yesterday, several oxpeckers moved across its back. Their bills searched behind its ears, opened paths through coarse hair, and pulled selected ticks from folds the buffalo could not easily inspect. Today, the buffalo is alone. Across the savanna, the same absence repeats. A giraffe raises its long neck with no bird clinging to its hide. A zebra twitches beneath circling flies, but no oxpecker lands. A black rhinoceros pushes through dense shrubs without a small passenger standing above the grass. At first, almost nothing appears to change. The buffalo keeps grazing. The giraffe keeps browsing. The rhinoceros still turns its ears and tests the wind. Ticks remain attached. Flies continue moving. The grassland does not collapse. So what would really happen if oxpeckers disappeared from the African savanna? Would parasites eventually take over? Or would the greatest loss be something much harder to see? The most obvious change would begin on the bodies of large mammals. Oxpeckers spend much of their lives in close association with hosts such as buffalo, giraffes, zebras, antelope, cattle, and rhinoceroses. To the bird, each animal is a moving feeding territory. Ticks hide between hairs and inside skin folds. Flies gather around the host. Small arthropods move across the hide. Wounds and skin secretions can also provide food. If the birds vanished, some parasites that might otherwise have been eaten would remain on their hosts, at least for the moment. One tick behind an ear might stay attached. One fly might escape a red bill. One cluster inside a shoulder fold might go unsearched. But this would not produce an instant wave of infestation. Oxpeckers are only one influence inside a much larger parasite system. Ticks depend on suitable hosts, but also on temperature, moisture, vegetation, season, movement, and the demands of their different life stages. Some detach from one host and continue developing elsewhere. Some fail to survive. Some are disturbed or removed when mammals rub, scratch, roll, groom themselves, or groom one another. Oxpeckers also do not remove every tick from every host or feeding site with equal frequency. Research comparing mammal hosts has found that both oxpecker species tend to prefer ungulates carrying more ticks. That supports the idea that parasite abundance helps shape where the birds feed. But it does not prove that oxpeckers alone determine how many ticks remain on an animal. Their disappearance would remove one consumer, not every force acting on the parasites. The effect would also differ between hosts. A large buffalo offers a broad, stable platform, thick folds, and many possible feeding sites. A giraffe carries birds across a surface extending far above the ground, including neck regions that are difficult for the animal to reach directly. A zebra can twitch its skin, lash its tail, and rub against vegetation. Smaller antelope may carry fewer birds, depending on their size, tolerance, location, and parasite burden. A heavily visited buffalo could lose far more oxpecker activity than an individual that rarely carried the birds. Even neighboring habitats might experience different outcomes, because red-billed and yellow-billed oxpeckers do not occur in exactly the same numbers or use every host in the same way. The mammals would not become defenseless. A buffalo can twitch the muscles beneath its hide. It can sweep flies away with its tail. It can scratch, rub against bark, wallow in mud, and move away from concentrated insects. Zebras can groom one another. Other social mammals can use teeth, lips, horns, or hooves to reach parts of their own bodies or those of companions. These behaviors may disturb or remove some parasites, but they do not perfectly reproduce what an oxpecker does. A bird can walk across the host, search beneath hair, probe ear bases, and move rapidly from one difficult fold to another. Without oxpeckers, the hosts retain several defenses, but lose one specialized mobile forager. And even that loss would not be entirely beneficial. or entirely harmful. Oxpeckers are famous for taking ticks, but they can also feed at existing wounds, consume blood or tissue fluids, and irritate sensitive areas. A buffalo may tolerate a bird searching its back, then twitch, shake or rub when the same bill reaches an injury. If oxpeckers disappeared, those costs would disappear too. No bird would peck at the wound. No claws would grip the irritated skin. No host would spend energy trying to dislodge that particular feeder. One animal might retain more ticks, but lose repeated wound feeding. Another might lose frequent parasite removal, even though it had rarely experienced harmful pecking. The result depends on what the birds were doing before they vanished. But one host could lose something that no scratch against a tree can replace. A black rhinoceros is browsing among dense shrubs. A researcher begins walking toward it during a controlled field approach. With red-billed oxpeckers on its back, the first change may occur above the rhinoceros. A bill stops. The bird raises its head. An alarm call breaks the ordinary rhythm. Without the bird, none of those signals occur. The rhinoceros still has its own senses. Its ears rotate. Its nostrils test the air. It may still detect the approaching person, but one source of earlier information has disappeared. In that field experiment, black rhinoceroses detected the approaching researchers in 23% of the approaches when oxpeckers were absent. When resident oxpeckers gave alarm calls, the rhinoceroses detected every approach. Average detection distance increased from roughly 27 meters to 61 meters. Those results are striking, but specific. They involved black rhinoceroses, red-billed oxpeckers, alarm-calling birds, and approaching researchers under the conditions of that study. They do not prove that every oxpecker warns every host about every predator. And they do not mean a rhinoceros without birds becomes unaware of its surroundings. What disappears is an additional warning channel, one that may begin reacting before the giant beneath it does. The food once used by oxpeckers would not disappear with them. Some ticks would continue feeding. Some would detach. Flies would still gather near wounds, secretions, dung, and disturbed vegetation. Some exposed insects might be consumed by other insectivores. Predatory arthropods would continue hunting smaller prey. Hosts would keep grooming, scratching, rubbing, and wallowing. But that partial overlap would not recreate an oxpecker's full combination of host riding, searching beneath hair, feeding inside skin folds, and calling from the host's body. A bird, following a buffalo through the grass, may catch insects, disturbed by its feet, without ever landing on the animal. Another species may eat flies, but never search beneath coarse hair. A mammal may rub against a tree, but cannot move a small bill through every fold behind its own ear. The resources would be redistributed among many organisms and processes. The empty space would be divided, not perfectly filled. Over time, the deeper change would be the disappearance of connections. Ticks would no longer transfer some of their energy into oxpecker bodies. Large mammals would no longer carry these birds between feeding sites. The birds' host preferences would vanish from the landscape. The black rhinoceros relationship would lose its external alarm channel in the specific setting where it has been documented. The savanna could retain mammals, insects, vegetation, and other birds while becoming ecologically simpler. Biodiversity is not only the number of species present, it is also the network of things those species do together, and the disappearance could begin in the opposite direction. Oxpeckers depend on suitable large mammals. Those hosts provide feeding surfaces, parasites, transport, and repeated access to food. In northern Tanzania, oxpecker densities were lowest in the most human-dominated study landscapes, where communities of large wild mammals were greatly reduced. The birds most often used large, tolerant, ungulate hosts. Cattle were abundant in some areas, but they frequently displaced oxpeckers and did not effectively replace the preferred large wild mammals. As large wild herbivores disappear from altered landscapes, oxpeckers can lose the living platforms on which their specialized ecology depends. The interaction may therefore vanish locally before either bird species disappears everywhere. First, fewer suitable hosts remain. Then fewer birds use the landscape. Finally, the link between mammal, parasite, and bird is no longer present at all. Late in the afternoon, the buffalo from the opening still grazes. The savanna has not collapsed. A tick remains behind its ear. The buffalo twitches, turns, and rubs against a rough tree. Nearby, a giraffe continues browsing. A black rhinoceros raises its head and searches the wind with no bird standing on its back. The animals survive the moment, but no oxpecker moves between them. No red or yellow bill searches their skin. No bird converts selected parasites into its own survival. No alarm call rises above the rhinoceros. The disappearance of oxpeckers would not create one immediate disaster. It would remove a specialized pathway connecting mammals, parasites, insects, and information. The savanna would continue without oxpeckers, but one relationship found nowhere else would disappear with them.